Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to this series of lectures prepared for the benefit of first year students of English, licence d'anglais. This first lecture is an introduction to the module named in French Civilisation, culture de la langue, in English Civilizations, cultures of the language, and in Arabic حضارات وثقافات اللغة. First, we are going to state the objectives of this first lecture. We will try to find answers to the following questions. The first question is, what is this module about? I mean, a presentation of the module. And the second question is, how does it relate to English learning? The third question is, what is culture and what is civilization? I mean, definitions of culture and civilization. The fourth question is, how do these two relate to language? I mean, how do culture and civilization relate to language learning? And the fifth question is, how is this module going to be taught? What are the methods that we are going to use in order to teach and learn civilization and culture? To begin with, we will have a look at language learning. Language learning, which is the primary focus of students coming to learn English at a university. And for this reason, language learners in general and English learners in our case always seek to be performant in four skills. There are four language skills that learners of any language seek to acquire. Two skills, listening and reading, are called input or reception skills. Two other skills, speaking and writing, are called output or production skills. This means that learners of a language have to be skillful in listening. This means being able to understand what other people say. The same thing for reading, being able to understand when reading texts. The other skill, which is speaking, means being able to make oneself understood to other people who listen. Writing, the same thing, being able to make oneself understood by other readers. These are the four skills that language learners in general and English learners in our case need to acquire. In addition to these four primary skills, language learners usually seek to be competent in communication. It is called communication competence. And this communication competence has sub-competencies that students need to acquire. The first competence is called grammatical competence. Grammatical competence, which means having enough knowledge about the rules of the language. Grammatical rules, vocabulary rules, pronunciation rules, and spelling. The second competence is called socio-linguistic, which means being able to use the language according to situations. to communicate appropriately according to context. It means the need to choose the right words, the right expressions, and the right attitude towards a specific topic in a specific setting and also a specific relationship. Using language according to the different situations the speaker or the writer may encounter. The third competence is called discourse competence, which means being able to use the language and the language structures to write a coherent and cohesive text, be it oral or written, and different types of texts. Examples of this, a political speech or an academic paper. So this is the third competence, which is named discourse competence. The fourth competence is called strategic competence. And this is a particular competence because it is the ability to overcome obstacles in case there are difficulties of limited language knowledge. In this case, strategic competence compensate. So strategic competence is the ability of the speaker or the writer to use verbal and non-verbal language to convey the intended meaning. Let's go now to the definition of culture. Culture actually is a subject of great debate. Scholars have debated a lot the different definitions of culture. However, there is a common ground acceptable by the majority of scholars. This definition might be like the following. Culture is the set of beliefs, way of life, art, and customs that are shared and accepted by people in a particular society. Again, culture is the set of beliefs. It means how people think about different issues of their life. For example, how they see religion, how they see their past, their future, their values, their ideologies, all are included in the term beliefs. Way of life includes a number of aspects such as food, way of dressing, behavior, and many other things in their habits or their daily life. Art or artistic production, any artistic production is regarded part of culture, such as music, painting, theater, and all other artistic productions. And customs. Customs, usually the inherited practices from the past, such as feasts or ceremonies, religious ceremonies, or festivals, and the like. All these beliefs, way of life, artistic production, and customs are shared and accepted by people in a particular society. If you want to apply this definition on British culture, we would say British culture is the set of beliefs of the British people, the way of life of the British people, the artistic productions made by the British people, and the customs inherited by the British people. And these are accepted, shared, and accepted by the British people. If we apply the definition on American culture, we would say that American culture is the set of beliefs of the American people, the way of life of the American people, the artistic productions of the American people, and the customs inherited from the past. Now, the definition of civilization. The same thing about civilization. Civilization is a term that scholars debated and tried to find definitions to the term. But there is a kind of standard definition, a definition that is common, that is commonly accepted by different researchers and scholars. So this definition might look like the following. Civilization is an advanced state of human society containing highly developed forms of government, culture, and industry. Culture, industry, and common social norms. So, if we want to detail the definition, we would say that civilization is a state of society that is considered advanced. And this advanced state contains highly developed forms of government, culture, industry, and common social norms. Two important terms here, advanced and highly developed. We must keep this in mind. A society that is advanced and that has highly developed government, culture, industry, economy, and the like. Following this definition, scholars have established a number of elements necessary for a civilization. It means that these basic elements have to be seen in a society so that we would say that that society succeeded to achieve a stage of civilization. The first element is an advanced political system. Civilized societies or civilizations have an advanced political system which is typified in a central government with institutions to help the government effect its policies. Institutions like the army, like the perhaps parliament, uh, cabinet, a tax system, an administration, a bureaucracy. So there is an advanced political system that characterizes a certain society. The other element, which is a sign of the existence of a civilization, is an advanced economic system. This is reflected in infrastructure projects such as roads or bridges or railways and the like. So the existence of infrastructure projects. Also, an advanced system of industry. Obviously, advanced compared to the surrounding environment. It means according to the time at which the civilization existed. It means advanced methods, advanced tools used. The same thing in agriculture, an advanced system of agriculture, such as the kind of crops planted, the kind of tools used, and the kind of methods used. The third element is an advanced social system. Civilizations have an advanced social system which is reflected in an organization sorry, an organization of society into classes. Usually, societies that succeeded to build a civilization has a system of classes, and also a division of labor. Labor is specialized. We find people who are carpenters, we find people who are farmers, blacksmiths, and the like. The fourth element is an advanced cultural system. Civilizations have an advanced cultural system, which is reflected in an organized and sophisticated religious beliefs. Usually, there are religions or beliefs which are organized, sometimes written, with institutions, with priests or groups of people running the question of religion. Also, arts. Arts are a sign of an organized or advanced cultural system. I mean, arts such as painting or sculpture or poetry or anything of this kind. Uh, Also, monuments, the advanced cultural system can be seen in monuments, etc. And also, obviously, literature. Many scholars insist on a written language. They say that a written language is a sign of civilization, a written language which is used in the government, in economy, in education, in religion, in arts, etc. This is perhaps material civilization, but we have another meaning of civilization, which is based on the notion of civilized, non-civilized, civilized and savage. This meaning is based on there are some characteristics of this definition, which relies on, for example, respectability, disciplined character, elegance, good manners. All these are taught. They result from a particular way of education and upbringing. We find this at the level of families, at the level of individuals, and at the level of the whole society. It is also seen in proper ways of speaking, proper ways of dressing, behaving, and interacting. It can be seen in punctuality, it can be seen in seriousness at work. All these are elements of this other meaning of civilization. So let us now have a look at the link between language and culture. Nearly all scholars and researchers insist on the close connection between language and culture. Some points about this relation between the two is that language is part of culture. Any language is part of the culture of the people who speak it. You cannot study the culture of a people without concentrating or having a look at their language. In addition to this, language actually carries a lot of cultural aspects. The second point is that language usage depends on culture. People always use the language according to their cultural code. It means the beliefs and the habits they have impose on them the way of using language. The third point is that language records culture. Language is a means to save culture and civilization, obviously. For this reason, civilization and culture is always transmitted through language. Language here becomes a vehicle of transmission from one generation to another, but also language is a way or a means of learning, is a tool of learning other people's culture and civilization. So now, how is culture and civilization, or how is culture related to civilization, and vice versa? Obviously, culture and civilization are closely interconnected. However, we need to make some distinctions. All peoples have cultures, but not all peoples have civilizations. Again, all peoples, all societies have cultures. There is no society without a culture. But there are societies which did not succeed to build civilizations. Okay? Another point, high culture is sometimes regarded as civilization. When a culture, the meaning of system of beliefs, a way of life, arts, and traditions or customs, when considered as high, better than other cultures, in this case it is considered civilization. The third point is that culture is part of civilization. When we say Roman civilization, Roman culture is part of Roman civilization, isn't it? And the same thing, civilization is part of culture. When we say Roman civilization is part of Roman culture. If we study Roman culture, we necessarily study Roman civilization. So you see that culture and civilization are very closely interconnected. What is the role of history? Now, history actually is always evoked when we study civilization and culture. We often find titles like History of Roman Civilization, History of Greek Culture and Civilization, History of American Civilization, History of American Culture and Civilization. So we usually encounter this term history when we talk about culture or civilization. Now, history can be understood in two ways. History, number one, is all the things that happened in the past, especially the political, social, or economic development of a nation. So, history is about people's lives from the past up to now. It means extending from the past up to the present in different fields of life: political life, social life, economic life, cultural life, etc. This reminds us of the meaning of culture and the meaning of civilization, because civilization has to do with different aspects of a people's life. Culture, the same thing, different uh, aspects of a people's life. So we find ourselves dealing with history at the same time of dealing with culture and civilization. Another thing is that history is an academic tool, is a discipline. History is a discipline. Civilization is not a discipline. Uh, uh, Culture is not a discipline. Perhaps cultural studies, but cultural studies is a special case. So culture and civilization are studied often through the discipline of history, using history as an academic tool to study the evolution of culture or the evolution of civilization. Now, history uh, an effective tool because it relies uh, on chronology, the order of time, which is easy to follow by the mind. So for this reason, when we study British civilization, we usually have a look at the evolution of that civilization, which is history. When we study British culture, also we have a look at the evolution of British culture, which is history in fact. So, what are the objectives of teaching culture and civilization? Why should we learn about the culture and civilization of other peoples in relation to language? In our case, the question is, why should we study American and British civilization? First of all, to enhance our language competence or linguistic competence. How is that? All the skills are practiced when we learn the culture and civilization of other people. We will first listen to videos, listen to films, documentaries. We will read books, we will read articles, we will read different types of text about culture, about civilization. We will speak, we will debate, we will answer questions, we will ask questions, we will present, and we will write. We will write examinations, term papers, dissertations about culture and civilization. So in this way, actually, we are contributing to the enhancement of the language side. The other skill that we can acquire thanks to the study of culture and civilization is the intercultural competence, which has become nowadays very important in this globalized world. People have come together and come nearer to each other, frequent contact, and knowledge about other people, about their history, about their politics, about their thinking, their economy is more than necessary. So the intercultural competence is very necessary for our students and for us in general. The third competence that we can learn thanks to the study of culture and civilization and history, obviously, because we are in history of civilization and culture, this competence is intellectual competence, which is very important to acquire. This intellectual competence, which means ability to properly understand, being able to understand the different cultural phenomena or different historical phenomena, being able to analyze them, being able to evaluate and find solutions to problems. Also, the development of critical thinking, thinking appropriately, thinking correctly, being able to give true judgments and correct judgments about different aspects of life. Also, we usually learn from other people's experiences. When we read about the culture and the civilization of other people, we become able to see the positive sides and the negative sides. We adopt the positive sides and we neglect or avoid the mistakes. So, on the whole, what will this series of lectures about? They are a study of British and American civilizations, cultures, and their influence on the other parts of the world. So I repeat this. What are we going to do? We are going to study the British and American civilizations because they are the native speakers of English and their influence on other parts of the world. So, in other words, we will have a look at the history of British people, their history, um, their society, uh, British political system and different issues, the British Empire, British values, accomplishments made by the British people, and the possible influence made on other parts by Britain. The other side is to study American people and their history, their society, American values, American politics, imperialism, American achievements, and possible cultural or economic or social influence of the United States on other parts of the world. I thank you very much for following this first lecture, and I hope to see you in the next lecture, inshallah.